I'm here with Taylor from class and Kim from class. Children should not be retained based on standardized testing. It's just wrong. Even with all the overwhelming negative research provided in the previous 3 decades, the U.S. still allows grade level retention based on standardized testing. The research proves to be ineffective and new policies need to be implemented, according to Dr. Danielle Dennis of the University of South Florida. The reality is, elementary age children should not be retained based on annual standardized tests. How many of you remember the stress of standardized testing when you were in elementary school? Now, multiply that feeling by 100. This is the feeling of the majority of elementary school children today because of increased pressure from teachers and principals, the poor quality of curriculum, and the lack of preparation for the test. Imagine sitting in front of a computer just like this for more than 5 hours taking a test that may retain you in the same grade. I've seen this firsthand from my own son and his friends, and the stress that it creates and how damaging the stress can be for these children. Unfortunately, the research has proven that retention from standardized tests actually does more harm than good. And here are some of the reasons. According to www.fairtest.org, retention does not help students to catch up. Students who are retained do no better or even worse on standardized tests than other measures. Students who are retained drop out more often than other students. Students that have been retained once have a 40% higher chance of dropping out and a 60% higher chance of being retained twice. This happens largely because being overage in grade damages students' self-confidence and leads them to disengage from school. Retention rates are higher for African Americans, Latinos, and children from low-income families. These students are also most likely to have the least qualified teachers and other resources to help them succeed. Males are also retained more than females. Despite what the large body of research says, supporters of retention continue to argue that just the threat of retention will motivate students to work harder and learn more, while those that are retained will learn more after the second repetition. Again, research shows it doesn't work this way. Repeating the same material twice does not result in sustained achievement from retained students, and in the long run, threats prove to be very weak motivator, but instead seem to discourage students. Anyone with an 8-year-old knows this. According to www.ascd.org, research concluded that promoted students had higher academic achievements, better personal judgment, and more positive attitudes towards school than retained students did. In addition to research and statistics, there are additional studies that show low-income and minority children are at greater risk of the negative impact of retention. Teachers and students, especially low-income students, suffer the greatest impact of standardized testing. Students from low-income and minority group backgrounds, English language learners, and students with disabilities are more likely to be denied diplomas, retained in grade, placed in a lower track, or unnecessarily put in remedial educational programs. The U.S. depends on standardized testing to assess and rate performance for teachers and students. According to www.fairtest.org, researchers looked at popular value-added methods of teacher evaluations and found them fraught with errors and unreliable. In addition, there are undue pressures that take tolls on teachers and students. There are alternatives to standardized testing and retention. Targeted supports and services that are available to students when they need them, which may include tutoring, after-school programs, Saturday classes, or other support services. These services need to be studied to ensure they are effective in enabling students at risk to catch up and they are not merely test coaching programs. Professional development for teachers to enable them to address a broader range of diverse student needs. Research shows that teachers are the single most important factor to student success. Mixed age classrooms where children at different levels work together on common problems. And continuous relationships with teachers. Research has shown that students do better in school when their teachers know them well and they work with the same teacher for more than 2 years. Developing a variety of assessment skills and tools for classroom use, such as performances and portfolios, to help teachers and parents assess what students are learning, to find gaps, and to address problems immediately. High-quality classroom assessment used to help each child has been shown to be a powerful tool for improving student learning. Districts, administration, and teachers need to focus on the diversity of children and adapt to different ways of teaching to support the various ways that children learn. The focus should be on early diagnosis and understanding why these students have fallen behind and devise a plan to move forward. So, why all of a sudden is the practice of grade retention gaining traction once again? According to Dr. Danielle Dennis, there are 4 different factors. General disdain by policymakers for social promotion, conventional expectations about time and progress in reading favor our tendency to honor efficiency. The appeal of grade retention is supported by the current climate of test-driven school accountability. Elementary school teachers and other stakeholders frequently cite unreliable improvements in performance of students in the months following the decision to retain. Now, as a side note to this, short-term gains are not unusual, but research shows that long-term improvements have not been proven. In conclusion, with all of the overwhelming research, statistics, and alternatives known, children should not be retained solely based on standardized tests. Standardized tests only give a snapshot into how students can succeed and excel in their basis of knowledge. Standardized tests are not reliable sources to evaluate teachers. The U.S. is the only economically advanced nation to rely heavily on multiple choice tests. Other nations use performance-based assessment to evaluate students on the basis of real work such as essays, projects, activities. Ironically, because these nations do not focus on teaching to multiple choice or short answer tests, they score higher on international exams. These international exams are the very same ones that supporters of standardized testing rely on for backup, saying that the United States falls below the curve when compared to various countries. It is my opinion, which is supported by research, the cons of standardized tests greatly outweigh the pros, and therefore all standardized testing should be either removed or not used for retention for children.